Welcome to another gripping true crime story. Today, we're diving into the chilling tale of an au pair, a love triangle, and a deadly confrontation that shocked the nation. Get ready, because this one is full of unexpected twists and turns.
Juliana Perez Magalhaes was living what she thought was a dream life as an au pair for the Banfield family in Virginia. At 24, she was working in a grand mansion, taking care of a young child, and feeling as if she was part of the family. But beneath the perfect surface, things weren't as idyllic as they seemed. Brendan Banfield, her employer, seemed to have grown closer to Juliana over the months. What started as a professional relationship turned into something more personal. They shared long conversations, intimate moments, and soon, the lines between employer and employee blurred. Unbeknownst to many, Brendan's marriage with his wife Christine was on the rocks. While outwardly, they seemed the perfect family, Christine had grown distant, sensing her husband's attention shifting elsewhere. Little did she know, Brendan and Juliana had begun an affair. Juliana, feeling special and important in Brendan's life, didn't think too much about Christine. She was focused on Brendan and the life they were beginning to build together. But, as things heated up between them, tension built in the Banfield household. February 24, 2023, started like any other day. Juliana took the Banfield's child to the zoo, a seemingly innocent outing. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something dark was lurking in the background, waiting to explode. That day, her life would change forever. While she was out, Christine Banfield was home alone. Little did Christine know that a man named Joseph Ryan was headed her way, a man who had been lured through a fetish dating site under Christine's name, but allegedly orchestrated by Brendan and Juliana. As the day went on, Juliana returned to the Banfield house, and things took a sudden turn. Upon entering, she found herself in the middle of a horrifying scene. Christine lay upstairs, bleeding from multiple stab wounds. Nearby was Joseph Ryan, who had been shot multiple times. Juliana panicked, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of what had just happened. Her first instinct was to call 911, hoping someone could help. But what should have been a simple call turned into a complicated web of lies and deceit. Brendan, too, had arrived back at the house by then. He had been waiting at a McDonald's parking lot, but now, both he and Juliana stood over the bloody scene. As they pieced together their stories, it became clear this wasn't a random attack. Something far more sinister was at play. The police arrived quickly, and they were met with a gruesome sight. Christine was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. She was pronounced dead shortly after. Meanwhile, Joseph Ryan was declared dead at the scene. Brendan initially claimed to have shot Joseph in self-defense after he discovered the man attacking his wife. But as investigators dug deeper, inconsistencies in their stories began to surface. Why had Brendan waited so long to call for help? Why had Juliana returned to the house so conveniently? The more the investigation progressed, the more Brendan distanced himself from Juliana. He hadn't been charged, and he was keeping his mouth shut. Juliana, on the other hand, was left to face the consequences alone. The investigation began to unravel the truth behind the love triangle. Juliana's role wasn't as innocent as it first appeared. With each passing day, more questions arose about how involved she had been in the twisted plot that led to two tragic deaths. By the end of the week, the case had captivated the nation. Reporters, true crime buffs, and everyday people were hooked on the story. But for Juliana, the reality was setting in. Her dream life had turned into a nightmare she couldn't escape. Juliana wasn't prepared for the media storm that followed the murders. Cameras flashed, headlines blared, and everyone wanted to know, how did a Brazilian au pair get caught up in such a twisted, tragic love triangle? As investigators began piecing together the events leading to the murders, the nature of Julie Anna's relationship with Brendan became a focal point. Brendan, the charming IRS investigator, had used his position of power to manipulate Julie Anna, or so she claimed. For months, Julie Anna and Brendan had carried on their secret affair. Brendan had promised her a new life, one where Christine would no longer stand in the way. Julie Anna had believed him, trusting that this was her path to a better future. Christine, meanwhile, had no idea the extent of her husband's betrayal. She knew something was wrong, but not the full depth of it. When Joseph Ryan, a stranger to her, walked into her home that February morning, she had no idea she was about to lose her life. Joseph Ryan had been lured to the house under false pretenses. It wasn't until later that the police discovered his connection to a fetish dating site linked to Christine's name. But why was Joseph there? Was he a pawn in Brendan and Julie Anna's deadly game? As more details emerged, investigators grew suspicious. Julie Anna's claim that Joseph had attacked Christine in a fit of rage didn't sit right with them. They started to wonder if Julie Anna and Brendan had set up the entire situation to get rid of Christine once and for all. The story of the au pair who had fallen for her employer and ended up in a double murder was now the talk of the town. But the more the police uncovered, the more it seemed like Julie Anna wasn't just an innocent bystander, she was part of the plan. Julie Anna's mother, back in Brazil, couldn't believe what was happening. She insisted that her daughter was innocent, a victim of Brendan's manipulation. But, as the evidence stacked up, it became harder to defend Julie Anna's role in the tragedy.
So far, we've dived deep into the shocking crime that unfolded in Virginia. Juliana Perez Magalhães, the Brazilian au pair, is accused of being part of a love triangle that ended in the deaths of Christine Banfield and Joseph Ryan. We've explored how investigators unraveled this.
As the trial began, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Julie Anna, now in her orange jumpsuit, sat with her defense team, trying to maintain composure. Her once bright future seemed a distant memory. The prosecution wasted no time laying out the case, a love triangle gone wrong, where jealousy and manipulation led to murder. Brendan, Julie Anna's lover, was called to the stand, but his testimony was guarded. He pled the fifth on several key questions, leaving Julie Anna to bear the brunt of the blame. Julie Anna's defense painted a picture of a woman manipulated by Brendan. She claimed that Brendan had orchestrated everything, that she had no idea what was truly going on until it was too late. Her lawyer pointed to her naivety, her foreign background, and how she had been misled by a man she thought she loved. The prosecutor, however, wasn't buying it. They presented phone records, texts, and forensic evidence that contradicted Julie Anna's claims. It showed that she had more involvement than she was letting on. The fact that she had returned to the house and participated in the aftermath only deepened suspicions about her role in the events. Brendan's silence only added to the mystery. He wasn't charged, but his reluctance to fully cooperate left many questioning his involvement. Was he protecting Julie Anna, or was he ensuring his own freedom? The jury watched closely, trying to piece together the complicated web of deceit that had led to two deaths. As the weeks went by, testimonies from friends, family, and experts painted a picture of a dysfunctional household filled with secrets. Christine's family took the stand, describing her as a loving mother who had no idea her marriage was falling apart. They begged for justice, their hearts broken by her brutal death. Julie Anna's mother flew in from Brazil to support her daughter. In her testimony, she pleaded for mercy, insisting that her daughter was not capable of such a heinous crime. But the prosecution countered with cold, hard facts. Julie Anna had pulled the trigger, ending Joseph Ryan's life, and her involvement couldn't be ignored. The defense's argument of self-defense didn't seem to hold up. The jury was left to decide if Juliana had acted out of fear or if she was part of a twisted plan to eliminate Christine and Joseph, paving the way for her and Brendan to be together. Finally, after days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. The courtroom held its breath as the judge read the decision, guilty of second-degree murder. The room erupted with emotion. Christine's family cried in relief, while Juliana sat, her face pale, processing her fate. Juliana was sentenced to prison, but many questions still lingered. Brendan remained a free man, leaving many to wonder, had the mastermind truly been brought to justice, or had Juliana paid the price for a crime she didn't fully orchestrate? The motives behind this horrific crime were a tangled web of jealousy, power, and manipulation. Juliana had entered the Banfield household as an au pair, but she quickly became entangled in something far darker. Brendan, charismatic and persuasive, seemed to have played a pivotal role in the events leading up to the murders. Psychologists and experts who later analyzed the case pointed out how Juliana had fallen under Brendan's spell. She was young, far from home, and vulnerable. Brendan, who was older and in a position of authority, took advantage of her naivety. The affair quickly spiraled out of control, leading to a toxic dynamic that culminated in tragedy. Christine, unfortunately, became the ultimate victim in this twisted plot. Unaware of the depth of betrayal within her own home, she was caught off guard. Joseph Ryan, a man who had no personal connection to Christine, was also a victim, lured into the house under false pretenses and killed in a fit of madness. But why had it come to this? Was Brendan truly willing to orchestrate a murder to rid himself of his wife? Or had Juliana taken things into her own hands? The court verdict may have placed the blame on Juliana, but the complexity of the case left many wondering if justice had truly been served. In the aftermath, the media speculated on the psychological impact of such a relationship. Juliana's defense team had pointed to the master-slave dynamic between her and Brendan, where she felt she had no choice but to comply with his wishes. Others argued that Juliana had become obsessed, willing to do anything to secure a future with Brendan. For Christine's family, the pain of losing her in such a senseless act of violence was unbearable. They struggled to understand how their loved one had been so cruelly betrayed by those she trusted most. They campaigned for further investigations into Brendan's role, believing that he had gotten away with murder. As for Juliana, her life behind bars was a far cry from the future she had imagined when she first arrived in America. She spent her days reflecting on the choices she had made, wondering how she had let things spiral so far out of control. In her letters to her family, she expressed regret but maintained that she had been pushed into a corner. The case became a cautionary tale of what can happen when power dynamics are abused, and how easily lust and greed can turn deadly. It left a scar on the community, with many questioning how a seemingly perfect family could harbor such dark secrets. In the end, the story of Juliana, Brendan, Christine, and Joseph became more than just a tale of love and betrayal. It became a lesson on the dangers of manipulation, the fragility of trust, and the devastating consequences of unchecked emotions. When we hear about cases like the one involving an au pair, it's natural to wonder why someone would commit such a heinous act. The motives for murder, especially in love triangles, often revolve around deep-seated emotional conflicts. Let's unpack some of the key factors. Jealousy and obsession. One of the most common drivers of violent behavior in relationships is jealousy. When someone feels that their position or affection is threatened, it can ignite uncontrollable rage. This intense jealousy often transforms into obsession, leading individuals to take extreme measures, even murder, to eliminate the perceived threat. Power and control. Many murder cases stem from a desire for power and control over others. In relationships, particularly where there is emotional or psychological manipulation, the need to dominate can push people to commit terrible acts. When the balance of power shifts or someone feels they're losing control, it can provoke violent reactions. Emotional desperation. In love triangles, there's often someone who feels trapped in a hopeless situation. The desperation to escape, or to maintain a connection that's slipping away, can drive individuals to take extreme actions. This emotional turmoil blurs rational thought and leads to catastrophic decisions. Cultural or personal background. Social and personal factors can also play a role. Some people grow up in environments where violence is normalized, or they might have unresolved trauma from the past. This can make them more prone to aggressive behavior when faced with emotional stress. Lack of emotional regulation. In many cases, the individuals involved lack the tools to manage their emotions properly. They might feel overwhelmed by anger, betrayal, or fear and are unable to process these emotions healthily. Instead of seeking support or walking away, they act impulsively, often with devastating consequences. The role of psychological disorders. While not every person who commits murder has a diagnosed mental illness, psychological factors can contribute. Conditions like borderline personality disorder or narcissism may exacerbate feelings of insecurity or rejection, leading to violent outbursts. Relationship conflicts and betrayal. When trust is broken in a relationship, it can lead to an emotional unraveling. Love triangles often involve intense feelings of betrayal, which can fuel rage and desire for revenge. The emotional toll of feeling wronged, whether justified or not, is sometimes too much for people to bear. Opportunity and impulsiveness. Some murders occur simply because the opportunity presents itself. In moments of heated passion or conflict, a lack of foresight combined with impulsiveness leads people down a path they can't undo. The crime isn't always premeditated. It's a spur-of-the-moment decision with permanent consequences. Influence of media and society. Sometimes, media representations of relationships, crime, and violence can contribute to unhealthy ideas of how to handle conflict. When individuals feel wronged, they may be more likely to emulate extreme behaviors they've seen in media, rationalizing their actions as justified. Fear of loss. In cases involving love triangles, fear plays a significant role. Fear of losing a partner to someone else can push a person over the edge. This fear is heightened if the person feels they have invested too much into the relationship to let go. Understanding these factors doesn't excuse violent behavior, but it does shed light on the emotional and psychological dynamics that drive such tragedies. Awareness and early intervention in situations where control, jealousy, or emotional turmoil exist are critical to preventing these heartbreaking events.
In the end, the tragic tale of jealousy, deceit, and murder left a permanent scar on those involved. McGall's trial revealed a dark side to the seemingly ordinary life in a Virginia mansion. While prosecutors painted her as the mastermind, McGall's claimed self-defense, leaving the jury to decide if she was truly the victim or a willing participant in a sinister plot. Lives were lost, secrets unraveled, and justice sought, but the haunting question remains: was this a tragic accident or a well-orchestrated murder?